Hey, and welcome to the Killer Be Killed podcast, the most unlistened to show on the interwebs. I'm here with George. I'm here with Josh. And yeah, it's been a busy 2026 so far. We started, a lot of us are doing live training lessons. We've been doing this all along, but there's obviously an uptick in that. So, if you don't know, along with the training, the video training and the courseware, we do offer live training. So it's not just, okay, here's my videos, I'm kind of my own. I go, a lot of people can work like that, and that's great. I mean, I know, I can, especially if you got, some experience doing stuff, especially if you're, but some people just, need a little help, so we offer, the Kickstart lessons, which allow you to, really kind of, get and with a real person and formulate a 30-day program. Hey, Clayton, awesome to hear you. I was thinking about you the other day. I'm sorry I didn't reach out. I hope you are feeling good, sort of to be back again. Clayton's been battling. Really glad to hear your voice. Happy New Year. And again, this is like, I'm 5 days past the Happy New Year point. I only say Happy New Year like a week after New Year, and then I stop.
So July, you're not going to be busting it out?
Bro, it's like you're in February. People are like, Happy New. When do you stop? Right?
Well, Chinese New Year comes up, right? So we do have that.
That's the other thing, and the other one I take from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, sorry for your loss. It's got like a 2-year.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I lost my dad when I was a child. Oh, that sucks. That's sorry for your loss. Sorry for your loss. It's like, how long do you want to keep, holding it out? So
that's right.
So yeah. So anyway, I just we do live training a lot. So don't hesitate. Reach out to us. We've got stuff set up, and most people will just be like, well, you need to, so speaking of which, let's get into some hate mail.
I just want to jump in real quick and just say, we do also travel. So, feel free to book us. I am up here in Canada, Toronto area, but yeah, happy to travel anywhere. Josh, I know you're in Texas. People can come to you, or, your schedule may allow you to travel. Definitely reach out. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We have an instructor locator too that shows where
everybody is. So, and if you don't know, just reach out to customer service at theselfdefenseco.com, and we'll make it happen. It's really easy to do it. It's like you can either do it online or travel to one of the instructors, or have us come out to you. I mean, I went down to Brazil and done seminars. So yeah, we can do it. Now I got like no kids in anything. They're out. So I can, I'm free to move about the world.
And no kids that I know of. So I'm free.
Right. Or looking to escape.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, Josh is is close to Austin area. George is near Ontario. I'm near New York. So, we've got guys again, Australia and
all over.
So just, reach out. We're here. Okay. So a lot of trolls coming from LinkedIn of all places.
Wow. Okay.
So I posted this drill, and mostly it's the typical, as long as your opponent. So here's me just doing a freaking burst drill on the training dummy. Right. Yep. So it's like, yeah, okay. And
what is it? That's fine when it doesn't hit back, right? No fucking arms on Bob.
Right. I'm like, as long as your opponent doesn't have the arms to fight back, you should be able to win with those head chops. Absolutely. And my response is like, it's a drill.
Yeah.
It's a drill. Yeah. And I'm like, unfreaking believable. This other guy's like, I have a Bob, but realized stepping back a few feet and putting large caliber hose in it was more efficient. I'm like, yeah, okay, so you're just going to shoot anyone who steps to you. I'm like, that makes good sense. Good thing you posted that on social media.
That's right.
And, then there's other guys, but everyone's so planned till they come punch in the face. I'm like, says anyone who's never been punched in the face. right? I'm like, you don't lose it. So yeah, and then it was just the typical shit. I'm just like, it's a drill. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, that guy's comment's pretty good. He's like, he would tell you armless dummies don't hit back. And he's like, big mistake punching. Open hand is as shown is better. Yeah, it is better. Thanks, Robert.
Okay, so yeah. In politics, I do right, Donald. Okay, so needs to do 5-year-old when they have this in politics. You know what I mean? It's like the freaking another dude selling fear. Yeah.
You slap the crap out of that mannequin. That's someone who doesn't understand a edge of hand strike versus a slap.
Right.
We could do a video of slapping the hell out of a mannequin if you want.
So mannequin, hold on. Better have my money.
That's right.
Also, definitely not how you spell mannequin, but it doesn't matter. I hate those people.
I
hate those people that are like, "Oh, that you didn't spell that right." Like, who cares? That's your best argument. I didn't spell it right.
Sorry, man. Quinn.
Quinn, that's right. Manny Quinn.
I love this, right? Hold on, wait. See, that's bullshit.
It's an E, M-A-N-E.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's not
one N or two N's.
E. No, M-A-N. Yeah, there you go.
There, let me be smart. Yeah, right. The only thing it doesn't even because Jack Pillar be fear. Just we need another dude selling fear. I'm like, I don't even understand. Huh?
I'm just like glad you're not scared.
Yeah, right. Right.
Huh?
Glad you're not concerned. I don't know. I didn't think I was going to say glad you're not concerned about personal safety.
You should put scared, S-K-E-R-D.
S-K-E-R-D. Glad you're not scared. That makes sense. Just at the mannequin.
That makes sense. I thought he was pissed at the mannequin.
Still pissed. So,
gotta get in that right mindset.
That mannequin looked at me the wrong way. All right.
All he was doing was asking for directions.
Right.
Yeah, Clayton, you're right.
What do you say? I'm sorry.
Clayton said one of the biggest factors in those types of comments is a lot of these people don't understand what tools like drills, techniques, etc. really are or how they work.
Perfectly put. Right. And it's
Clayton,
funny.
we're hiring you to respond to everything now.
I'm like, do you sit there and look at a guy hitting a heavy bag and say, well, he's not boxing you, boxing heavy bags don't hit back. You're like, I don't get the point of it other than, the only reason why people, comment negatively is based on their own insecurities and shit they got going on. Some guys are just trying to be funny too. Right. So
yeah,
there's that. I'm like, I get it. Come on. But it's, when people like come in and just like, well, you gotta, you're like, dude, stop yourself. So, but yeah, I would say the majority of people that are trolling, don't have, yeah, they're just trying to make a joke, that shit. So anyway, yeah,
they need their 2 seconds of fame.
Yeah, and that's fine. There's whatever. I'm like fine. So that's what most of the times, like, again, responding with humor is whatever, and then you can only do it so much. I just do just do a handful, and then I'm like, we're done.
Yeah.
So what do you guys want to talk about first? The insanity that happened down in Venezuela.
Well, before we talk about that, it was funny. This morning, I was talking to my old man, and he was talking about the shit that's going on in Iran right now with all the protesting, trying to boot out the government, and they're like fucking killing their people. And I think it was like 500 people have already been killed and so on. I don't know a lot of what's going on there, but sounds like some issues.
Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched that. Like in general, it's hard to go down the rabbit hole on these things. So I can only do a couple, but I did see what was happening, and the only insight I can provide is basic clickbait. So from what I heard in my echo chamber, was that they started, I don't know what started the protest. I think there's a rumor that Elon put Starlink and made it available to them.
No, so what happened is
Thank you, Josh.
There we go.
Their economy has not been doing very well.
Right.
And they had a huge drop where it basically made their currency worthless, kind of like what happened during like World War I, World War II with Germany and stuff.
Oh, we all know that worked out.
Yeah. And so the people were like, we're fed up, we're done, which, yay, Iran. I've been wishing for this for a long time, ever since I went through my Iranian training.
Oh, nice. So you explain. Go. I love this shit.
Oh, so for people that don't know, I went and learned Farsi in the military, and as part of that course, you get culture and history training as well. Farsi is the language of Iran, which is also the language of the original Persian Empire. And anyways, they used to have, well, first, if we want to go a little bit further back, they were allied with Nazi Germany, because Iranians, even though they're in the Middle East, genetically they're actually Caucasians. They're Aryans. Oh, and so so Hitler was like, "Hey, Aryans, let's go."
I was this old when I learned this.
Yeah, that's right.
Go. All right.
And so they're Aryans, and so obviously Hitler was like, "Hey, Aryans, let's go." And so they partnered up, and then that didn't work out, we know. And then immediately following that, we, sometime in the 50s, we became friends with them. And because, we did that with everybody post World War II, became friends with everybody who was Germany's allies. Right. And so then we went and we supported their Shah, which is the king. And we brought Western, quote unquote, Western civilization and technology and everything. It used to be our biggest Middle East presence. We had upwards of 30,000 troops stationed there for decades. And then in the 70s, I want to say 71, but don't quote me. The Muslim Brotherhood conducted a coup and took out the Shah.
Who backed that coup?
I have no idea.
I think that was us.
No, we loved the Shah. We didn't put
the Ayatollah in there.
No, we did not want
because
I
thought there was something to do with oh, by the way, just to track back, how many people in the Aryan Brotherhood actually know that about Iran? Probably zero. So, and they've used, I'm sure, some colorful slurs to describe them. Okay, moving forward.
So what we did support was the Taliban, right? Which is Iraq, Afghanistan, and stuff like that. We supported the Taliban in helping to fight Russia, but we had full support and control in the Middle East while we had that massive presence in Iran. We were training their military, we were providing them with equipment, everything. And when they conducted their coup, their revolution, which was more of a coup than a revolution, so one of my instructors was one of the secretaries to the Shah. She was 16 years old. Wow. And literally she got a phone call from the Shah's wife. I forget what her name is. And she was like, "Hey, you've got like literally 30 minutes to pack some bags and meet me at this place.
Right.
And we're getting you out of the country.
So now the coup happened while we had 30,000 troops in country.
Yeah.
So what were the logistics of that? I mean, because,
so after the Ayatollah took over, they basically were like, hey, you guys are kind of welcome to stay if you want. And we were like, no, we don't support like the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right.
And so we just left. Like we just like kind of like how we did Afghanistan dirty. We literally just left, and we left all of our equipment there, and we were just like, we're out. And we just mass exodus like immediately. Like there's pictures of the embassy like being the last place to leave, and there's like, they're surrounded and they're flying in helicopters and getting people out and everything. And so anyways, we left like F-16s and like helicopters and like all the armament and everything.
Right.
And so for the first like decade or so, Iran was actually militarily very strong. Right. But immediately we sanctioned them and we said they can get 0 parts for these equipment. And so after 10 years, all their stuff started breaking down, and then their military kind of spiraled downward.
Right.
And then they kind of had to figure things out. And we've been sanctioning them ever since because we hate them. The Shah was our friend. Why would we get rid of him?
Yeah. I mean, I had heard that there was something with selling oil to Europe that the Shah didn't. There was something to do with oil that the Shah wasn't a fan of and that we didn't support.
I mean, we have differences all the time, but not enough to depose them with the Muslim Brotherhood, which
it
doesn't want to help us at all.
I mean, let's face it, we just pulled the guy out of his bedroom. So
no, that was not something we wanted. That was absolutely something we did not want.
Well,
they didn't really like I'm sure they had like ideas that it was probably going to happen, but they were like, oh, there's no way they're actually going to it's going to succeed. You know what I mean? Like, because we're here.
Right.
But it did succeed. And then it was kind of like, oh, well, that happened.
Well, I mean, Iran is like any country that's rich in oil, resources like oil should not have an economy issue.
Yeah.
Especially when you have countries, not necessarily the United States, but I don't know, Russia and China and India who are starving for power. I mean, they need oil, so not having pick up the poster. Okay. So Clayton said Josh after the second.
Yeah. I heard.
Yeah. Okay. So
the Iranian people, right, except for those extremist Muslims, the Iranian people in general love Western civilization, love America.
Right. Yeah.
And on record still, there's like 3,000 American citizens there. People who just like they had kids there, their families there. They either decided to stay afterwards or like they left and some of their families stayed. And so there's still Americans there, like all these things. And so for the last, 50 years or whatever, the Iranians have been like silently waiting for the opportunity to basically overthrow them and be like, hey, we want to come back because this sucks.
Yeah. I mean, when people talk about like immigration in the U.S. and, we in general are like, well, their countries are shitty, so they want to come here. They're being a problem. Like, why are their countries crappy? Right? If their countries were like, livable where they can, be with their family and their culture, they don't want to come here. They come here because they have to come here. And we automatically, just be like, take it on face value that, oh, their countries are shit, so they're coming here. I'm like, well, why aren't these countries getting fixed so people stay? So to your point, Iran from under the Shah, was like the beacon of like, Europe in the Middle East. I mean, it was, women dressed like modern dress. And
they were fast tracking to like quote unquote modern civilization. Yeah.
So,
and then they went backwards.
Right. And, what they did, again, they're not like, not only the military, the equipment is kept up, because look what happened in Venezuela. They boot us out. Exxon and the other oil companies that are down there, they just basically take over their, businesses that have, God knows how many billions of dollars worth of, equipment in there. And then they don't they just don't have the infrastructure to maintain them. And yeah, now they operate at like a very, low volume is what they could be doing. And people, don't, again, I'm not, I'm basically isolationist, and I'm like trying to like, just slowly just wrapping my head around the Venezuela bit. But now that I see the ripple effect that it's having down in South America, you're like, okay, this makes sense. The fact that we just pulled out the president and left the entire regime intact, technically it's not a regime change, right?
Right.
So you still have the same people in charge, but now they're dealing with us now. So that was, I get it. And, again, this is what you're hearing, that China and Russia have been in there, and Russia's been exporting oil like well under what the current market value should be for that oil. That's also potentially funding the war in Ukraine. So there's a lot of things at play here. And yeah, I mean, Venezuela falls. I don't know if did you ever see the Jack Ryan clip of the actor talking about Venezuela?
No, but you mentioned it.
Yeah. Let me just pull that up real quick. We have to do it in bursts so we don't get like dinged. But Jack Ryan, Venezuela. Okay, videos.
So Josh, that's what all the protests are. They're basically trying to overthrow the Brotherhood.
Yeah. They're like, we're fed up. We're done. This was the last straw. And so yeah.
And now people are being killed for it, and it's.
Oh, for sure, because the Muslim Brotherhood just like they rule with an iron fist, they rule through fear. And once there's no more reason to be scared, because you're like, well, it's either death or death, right? You're like, I'm either gonna die fighting or I'm gonna die because I'm hungry. It's
right.
like what's left. And so they're like, no, we're just gonna take it, which is good. It's about time.
Yeah. So here's a bit on Venezuela from Tom Clancy.
What would you assume is the most major threat on the world stage?
Definitely Russia.
Definitely Russia. Who else?
China.
Stop yelling at me, but China is a good answer. Venezuela? Anybody? Everybody's cool with Venezuela? No threat? Okay. Which one of these places can claim to have the largest oil deposit on the planet? More than Saudi? More than Iran? Wow. Okay, what about things like gold? More than all the mines in Africa combined?
I don't know about that. I know they've got the minerals. I don't know if they're more than Africa, but I'll share again. Don't worry about it. I just want to make sure that we can break it up. Let me just shrink this down because that was not working before.
Venezuela is arguably the single greatest resource of oil and minerals on the planet. So, why is this country in the midst of one of the greatest humanitarian crises in modern history? On the news, they'll call it a crisis. But on the world stage, they'll call it a failed state. Other examples of a failed state in recent history are Yemen, Iraq.
Okay. So, so the oil thing is true. There's the mineral things are true. I think the one thing I do like about, again, what Trump is doing is he's not hiding it.
Yeah.
He's saying it's like, no, they've got oil and minerals. It's not like we're like trying to free these people and things like that. I personally, like, I ignore, everyone cheering in the streets and crap like that. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that's great. We did that after Saddam. They did that, and then I don't know if they're worse or better off now, right? So there's that. So at least the one thing, we kept everything intact, but I really wanted to talk about what happened during the I want to talk about the operation, which is insane. I don't know if, has anybody I know you guys read this article. So U.S. used powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during Maduro raid, witness account. So this is one of the security guards for Maduro. The U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to the capture of Nicolas Maduro. According to witnesses' account, In a jaw-dropping interview, the guard described how American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier, using technology unlike anything he has ever seen or heard. We're on guard, but suddenly all of our radar systems shut down without any explanation. The guard said the next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. Moments later, a handful of helicopters, barely 8 by his count, deploying what he estimated were just 20 U.S. troops in the area. But those few men, he said, came in armed with something far more powerful than guns. They were technologically advanced, the guard recalled. They didn't look like anything we have fought against before. What ensued, he said, was not a battle, but a slaughter. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. He said they were shooting with such precision and speed, it felt like each soldier was firing 300 rounds a minute. Then came the weapon that still haunts him. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, it felt like my head was exploding from the inside. The effects were immediate and horrific. We all started bleeding from the nose. Some were vomiting. We all fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. So, yeah. I mean, it's like right out of an 80s movie. No, I'm like, this is insane.
I mean, we've had that technology for decades.
We have.
Cool that's being used.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. So one of the guys was talking about, even they use good. Hey, Tom, good to have you. So yeah, they, we're talking about, some of the rounds that I know they use, like there's some tracking rounds that they've used. Some of these like gold-plated rounds too.
I have no idea about gold-plated rounds.
Yeah, I don't, but 20 guys.
Yeah.
8 helicopters. I remember the crowd. I remember seeing this crowd control technology in the 80s, like experimental, talking about sound waves, but it was cumbersome, couldn't move it around. And I guess they got that. I guess they got the kinks worked out of it.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, there's reports in the Korean War of laser weapons being used.
Really?
Yeah. Like they didn't know what they were, right? But when you go back and you read the battlefield reports and then you superimpose the descriptions with like descriptions of what a laser weapon would do, you're pretty much like, these were either microwaves, lasers, or a combination thereof.
Huh. We still tied that one. But yeah, they are they're some dipped in bacon grease. Nice. So, this is, why didn't we bring this out sooner? I don't know, right? I'm like, we've had this stuff. I mean, this just doesn't come out in the last couple years, right?
It always makes you question, like, why aren't we arming everybody with this stuff, right? If we have it, why don't we give it to all the troops? If we can take out 200 people like that, like, why not give it to a squad, right?
Right. But we might not have to. Right. I mean, we just took 20 guys they were at a military base. I mean, it was like, I would say more fortified than a White House by far. They had hundreds of troops, right? So, 20 guys, not one injury, not one drone shot down. I mean, taking out blasting the radar, dropping these guys in, shooting with insane precision, going in, grabbing the guy. There was at least like 4 guys in the bedroom, like grabbing, taking them out. Right. So damn, 8 helicopters. That's crazy. And that's also why all these other countries, were like, okay, whatever you guys need, we're done.
Yeah, if you read to the end of the article, he's just like, my message to the whole world is don't mess with the US.
Right. Thank you again. I just, we're sitting here and, if you're these other countries and you're thinking about, it also like puts them, forces them, if they don't have this technology, it forces them to the nuke option. But the reality is, with this technology, like, holy crap, man, we could pretty much go in anywhere and do what we need to do.
Yeah. So, why are we hearing about this now and not other times, right? To say that these elite types of forces haven't used these technologies for decades is unreal, right? Obviously they have. But
Right.
why is it released, right? Why is it being released now? Why are we hearing about it? Is because I think it was a show of force, right?
Absolutely.
It was saying like, hey, just so you know, we can do this. And by the way, we are using these technologies, because nobody else is admitting to using it, right? It's like the nuclear weapon, right? Who's used it in real life? The US has, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, we're telling Japan, the whole time, we're telling Germany the whole time, hey, we're coming up with a weapon, you're not going to like it. And they're like, oh, sure, whatever, we're coming up with some too. And then we drop it, and suddenly people are like, whoa, they used it, right? It's the same thing. It's like, people have known about this technology and these weapons for a while, like, I'm sure other countries probably have some versions. I mean, there's stories of intelligence agents, getting hit in Guantanamo Bay and stuff like that with, remote activated, microwave and sonic and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah, they have been used, but on like a super small scale where it's like, was it really used? We don't know. There's no evidence, know? Well, now America is basically on the low key saying like, hey, we have it and we're going to use it.
We're going to use it.
Yeah.
And and we did it. And the fact that it got used so successfully. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I
mean, this is, they talk about, when you talk about a raid, right? Which this was a raid. When you talk about a raid and how raids are conducted, this set, like, there's a standard of how you conduct a successful raid, and you can look back in history and see successful raids and non-successful raids and what they did wrong, what they did right. This is a modern successful raid, right? This is going to be the new standard of, like, as military historians go through and document battlefield analyses and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, how was this raid conducted? Because it was so successful, this is now going to be the standard of, like, what did they do right? How do we replicate this over and over, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think, this is, man, it's, honestly, I'm like, I don't normally, but man, I'm so glad my ancestors came here. I'm really happy. It's like, you're looking at this and you just, besides like trying to wrap your head around it, you're like, yeah, I mean, let's stop messing around. Stop messing around. Right. It's crazy. I'm like, I feel like I'm a 14-year-old, like, imagining that this is a capability. I mean, just glossing over the fact that these guys were shooting, I mean, he used it. It seemed like 300, let's put it this way, firing very accurate at a rapid rate of fire.
Yeah.
That sounds to me like tracing bullets,
maybe, probably not, though. The amount of training that these guys go through to be able to do that is insane.
Yeah, they are tier 1 guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're talking like, we don't know what group went in and did it, but like, even if you're talking, like FBI HRT or DEA, whatever they've got, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about guys who recruit straight from other tier 1 units and they created their own tier 1 unit, right? And so, like, I've known some of these guys, and I can tell you that, like, you've met some of them, Damian, like, their training is unreal. Yeah. And like, speed and precision is literally what they do. That's like all they do. And so, I've heard stories of, like, one of my buddies who he was on deployment, and one of his squad leaders came from one of those units, but he wouldn't tell him where he came from. He just wanted to go back to the line. Yeah. And like, they got blown up. I think I've told this story before. They got blown up. And my buddy, the only thing he remembers about being blown up is he saw his squad leader flying through the air, unload an entire magazine and change magazines and fire a whole nother magazine before he hit the ground. We're talking like, what, a half a second?
Oh, crap. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was like, that's all he remembers from this entire experience, is watching that and being like, holy crap, I've underestimated this dude this entire time.
Right. It's, I always liken it to, if you have competed in sports on any level, let's say if you're a wrestler and then you wrestle, a college level wrestler, and you're like, okay, that was good. Then you wrestle an Olympian, and then you wrestle like an Olympic place winner or champion. You're like, I think we're supposed to be doing the same thing,
but we're not.
We are not. I am clearly, not. This isn't. I'm not even in the same room with this dude.
No, I mean, yeah, you're talking about the MVPs. You're talking about the Heisman Trophy winners. You're talking about the LeBron Jameses, but of the military.
Of the military, right?
Exactly. You're talking about guys who have both the drive, the genetics, the motivation, the training. Like they have the intelligence. Everything combines into this perfect storm of a super soldier, basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, there's people who try to do it, and like, there's this one guy I know. He went twice to the training, and both times he failed in mag changes because his hands were too small. He couldn't grip them the way they wanted him to, and he was short by like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's so like, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, that's
genetically, there's nothing you can do about it.
Dude, the same thing. If like in football, if your hands are not a certain size, you are not carrying the football.
Exactly.
Done.
I mean, look at Michael Phelps as a swimmer. Like they like broke down his entire body. And they're like, this is why he's faster than everybody else, because his body. There's only so much. There's so far you can go without genetics, but then to get to that next level, you have to have the genetics.
And that's where when people talk about any type of training, like, yeah, I'm going to train with this guy. I'm like, yeah, great. He's going to show you some great stuff, but you're going to do it at like, it's like going to golf with, Tiger Woods or somebody. It's like you could follow him around for 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
You ain't going to be hitting the ball like him ever, and I think that's a lot of misnomer. In fact, I think that's the driving factor behind, this type of, what we do in training is that there's an expectation, like, because this guy does this, this guy did this, this guy was a fucking world champion. This guy was a, tier one operator. It's good to get that experience, but to operate on that like level of proficiency, you're never going to have it. Plus, they can do things you can't do. Yeah. That's the biggest part of all of this. They can show you everything. They can teach you the drills, but there's just a lot of stuff you're not going to be able to do.
Yeah, you physically won't be able to reach it.
Yeah. And so what's going to happen is you're going to attempt it, and it's probably not going to work out well as you would imagine. Yeah. So, you got to like stay in your lane.
As hard as it is to hear, it's true.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's guys that do shit. I'm like, nope. I'm like, that's great. Nope. Or somebody will like bring up, oh, well, what about George St. Pierre, whatever. Yeah. What about him?
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that have to do with you or me?
Exactly.
Nothing. So
yeah.
I mean, you're seeing like you're hearing of the best of the best, and you're hearing these guys, and it's good. Like, it's funny to hear these guys, again, because they'll listen to some of their podcasts and stuff like that, and it's cool. But even those guys still in fight, get bitchy with each other. You know what I mean? There's all the, there's a human element to it where, some of these guys like, well, I don't know if they, will misrepresent what they've done to make it more, grandiose, which is to me is incredible, right? I'm like, you've done like a lot of stuff, but
it's like, just be proud of what you did accomplish.
You know what I mean? Why do you feel, it's like they can't, some of the guys can't override the human compulsion to, want to impress. And bro, it's already impressive. I don't know, why you want to get a couple extra clicks or whatever the hell it is. So but pretty incredible. What happened down there, and now, seeing the ripple effect of what's happening. And then I'm sure you'll probably see something now. You'll notice that like Ukraine and Russia are talking again. There's
Trump's like, don't make me come over there.
Right. It's like, Vlad's like, worked out of, he's like, okay, I got, my bank is, now it's limited. Right. So shit. But, if we'll see what happens next. I'm still like, I'm always a wait and see kind of guy. Hopefully, we can allow the companies that got their that got their businesses stolen from them 25 years ago can go back in and get everything up and running, and hopefully, the quality of living to the Venezuelan people goes back to where it was 25 years ago, and people can go home again. That's the big thing. I mean, we love America, shit like that, but everyone loves their country, right? So, and they want to live in their country, and you should, right? Yeah. And that's where, that's the question that everyone's got to be asking themselves. Why are they here? And why are they being, why are they seeking asylum? Why can't they find work? What's going on? Oh, I think there's a very leftist racist component to this. We're like, oh, well, they're Mexican, they're down in Mexico. You know how it is down there. I'm like, well, why is it like that down there? They're incapable of creating a world in which, they can prosper. I can't believe that, So, a fun fact, I found out that when the conquistadors came over to South America, they had 600 men and 13 muskets and armor, of course, and swords and things. The indigenous people didn't, have metal or anything like that. And we also, Europeans also gave them, smallpox and disease. That helped. But, it wasn't a lot.
Them not having armor and stuff is a misnomer. They actually did. They were working metals like for a long time, but they didn't wear it like the Europeans did, right? They didn't have full plate mail. Like most of the conquistadors were at minimum and like half plate. Right. They would have like maybe a headpiece, and then maybe like some bracers or greaves or something like that. Kind of more like well, not even as much as like like a Spartan or anything like that, but they did have some. They just didn't, because it's hot, right? You got to think about where the climate is, right? And so they just didn't armor up, so to speak. Right. But they definitely worked metal. It was, so to say they didn't have any is, that's just wrong.
All right.
But they probably saw these guys coming off like fully armored, like tanks, and they're just like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
They're like, we never thought about doing that. Why didn't we?
we have no time. We are
but
not.
There's actually tons of stories of the conquistadors traveling in south of the US, right?
Yeah.
So like Mexico, South America, and stuff like that. And they travel in. If they were traveling more than like 20 miles, 20, 30 miles, like a day's march, they would ditch their armor.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they would go do whatever they were going to do. And then on their way back, they would then pick up their armor for like that day's travel back.
Wow.
Because it was too hot and too immobile to move around in the hot climates down here.
Well, yeah. And anybody who's like trying to move through the jungle, I mean, it's freaking hard.
Yeah. So anything more than about a day's travel, they would just ditch the armor. So.
Oh, cool. All right. Excellent. So
it pays to have a military historian on the channel, right?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's freaking awesome. I'm like, yeah. Okay. So the other one I talk about is the ice shooting. Now, this is a we're gonna have to like break this up too. This is a Colion Noir. If you don't know who Colion Noir is, he's a Second Amendment advocate. He's an attorney. Talks about self-defense here, and I think it's just he just does a great job. Okay, so this is sorry to set this up. This is the shooting for the citizen who was impeding a federal operation. Everyone's heard about this, so there we go. Let me see if I can let me large screen this. Okay, good.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the What the?
Let me start by being very clear about what this video is not. This is not a political argument. This is not an immigration debate. This is not about whether you like ICE or hate ICE. If you're already locked into one side of that, nothing I say here is going to move you anyway. And I've accepted that. What I want to talk about is something that's much.
So he already positions it. It's just, we're just looking at the events that happened, and that's it. We're not getting into motivation or anything like that. All right. So he's spot on in what he's got to talk about.
Narrower, much more uncomfortable, and much harder to avoid. Was this self-defense? Because once you strip everything else away, the outrage, the slogans, the ideology, that's the only question that actually matters. Before we even get to the shooting, we have to deal with something people keep intentionally blurring. This woman was not passively protesting. She was not peacefully demonstrating. She was not exercising her First Amendment right from the sidewalk. She was actively interfering with the federal operation. That distinction matters. The First Amendment protects speech. It protects protests. It does not protect physically impeding law enforcement from doing their job. At the moment she began blocking them, at that moment she refused lawful
yeah, so that's a major point. You know, this is not a, you know, a First Amendment issue, right? So, you know, even though she was protesting in spirit, she was impeding a federal operation, which you cannot do on any level. So
yeah, I mean, let's pause it right there, right? How many people were standing on the sidewalk? Like that first, that you know, her spouse or whatever that's standing right there.
Right.
Like they literally ignored her.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Because you're allowed to be there doing that, but you can't beat them.
Right. Good point.
Man, to move, she crossed from protected activity into illegal conduct. That's not a value judgment. That's just the reality of how the law works. Now, I want to be careful here because this is where people tend to think I'm being dismissive or cold. I'm not. I'm actually willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm not assuming she was evil. I'm not assuming she wanted to hurt anyone. I'm not assuming she woke up that day intending to kill a cop. What I am inclined to believe is something much more human.
Okay. Another great point that, you know, I overlooked, you know, because you always think about intent. And, you know, technically, yeah, he's taking out intent, which I think is a pretty smart argument because, you know, you can't say, you know, because it actually has nothing to do with intent in this situation. So, yeah, this was something that was, again, a point I didn't think of.
She was stressed. She was overwhelmed. She did not want to be arrested. Anyone who's ever been in a high-stress confrontation understands this. When adrenaline spikes, your thinking narrows. You don't calmly analyze options. You don't weigh consequences. Your brain locks onto one directive. And hers, get out of here. And that's probably what...
Okay, and that is every self-defense scenario we describe. That is how we set our minds. And this is like, and that is like also the... that's what like pretty much every troll doesn't consider when they're posting their comments. They don't understand.
Exactly.
They don't understand this. They don't think about it. You know, when that, you know, sympathetic nervous system kicks in, you get tunnel vision, you know, you're, that's all you're thinking about. You are locked in on one thing and all you want to do is one thing. And there's evidence to that in the video.
What was happening? She hops into her vehicle, she starts it, and she steps on the accelerator. Not slowly, not cautiously, not in a way that says, hey, let me ease forward. She floors it. Now, and this is important, that does not mean she was thinking, I'm going to run this officer over. I'm actually not inclined to believe that. What I think is far more likely is that she was frantic. Her mind was ahead of her body. Her adrenaline was doing what adrenaline does. She wasn't thinking about throttle pressure or traction or who was standing exactly where. She just wanted to leave, and I understand that. But here's the hard truth that people don't like. Intent does not always control self-defense analysis.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Right? I mean, yeah.
Actions do. And her actions, regardless of what she meant internally, communicated something very specific to everyone around her. They communicated urgency. They communicated disregard for obstacles. They communicated, I'm leaving and I'm not stopping. Now, put yourself in the officer's position. It's snowing. There's ice on the ground. Traction is compromised. You're standing directly in front of a vehicle. You hear the engine rev. You hear the tire spin. The vehicle starts moving. You do not get time to psychoanalyze her mindset. You don't get to pause and say, well, maybe she's just panicking, because if you're wrong, you're dead. And this is the part that people refuse to confront honestly. Even if she didn't want to hurt him, even if she just wanted to escape, if he sidesteps and slips on ice, she's still going. Not because she's malicious, but because panic doesn't stop on command. Momentum doesn't.
Oh, wait, let me finish up.
Care about intent. And this brings us to the question nobody wants to answer. What is the officer supposed to do? Is he supposed to wait until he's under the front tire before he reacts? Is he supposed to confirm her intentions by risking his life? Because that's not how self-defense works.
So that's huge, right? He doesn't have to confirm her intentions to risk his life. And that's what everybody assumes you have to do. Like, you have to wait till he throws the first punch. You've got to wait till he pulls out a gun and starts shooting. You got to wait till he starts that. You don't have to wait. If you're in a position where your life is in danger or somebody else's life, you can defend it. Now, he brings it. Let me just go back a little bit, because I think this is again, I want to
escape. If he sidesteps and slips on ice, she's still going. Not because she's malicious, but because panic doesn't stop on command.
Panic doesn't stop on command.
Yep.
Yeah. Just wanted to highlight that.
Momentum doesn't care about intent. And this brings us to the question nobody wants to answer. What is the officer supposed to do? Is he supposed to wait until he's under the front tire before he reacts? Is he supposed to confirm her intentions by risking his life? Because that's not how self-defense works. Self-defense is not purely reactive. It's not wait until the worst thing happens and then respond. Self-defense lives in a space just before catastrophe. Preemptive and reactive force overlap.
Preemptive and reactive force overlap. They don't exist separately. And it's like self-defense lives in a world right before catastrophe. Right. So, you're in that line where most people will train you to wait for the attack, to train you to, and which is far too late. And this is one of our biggest challenges, is to, convince people of this freaking truth.
If someone is winding up to strike you with a bat, you don't have to wait for your skull to crack before you defend yourself. If someone is charging you with a knife, you don't have to wait until the knife is in your chest. And if someone is accelerating a 5,000-pound vehicle while you're standing in front of it, you don't have to wait until you're on the pavement underneath it. That's the space this incident lives in. Now, let's be honest. This is not a perfect self-defense scenario. It is imperfect as hell. It's messy. It's chaotic. It's happening in seconds, not minutes. I can understand someone saying, maybe he could have stepped to the side. And to a degree, he did, but she still made contact with the vehicle. And I can also understand someone saying, maybe he could have just let her go and dealt with it later. Yeah, assuming everything was perfect. I see all of those arguments, and I understand where people are coming from, but self-defense is not about perfection. It's about what a reasonable person would do when facing a potentially lethal threat under bad conditions. A vehicle becomes a deadly weapon the moment it is used this way. It doesn't matter whether the person driving means for it to be one. A 5,000-pound object moving towards a human being on ice is capable of killing them, full stop. And the officer didn't get the luxury of hindsight. He didn't get slow motion replay. He didn't get commentary. He didn't get to read her mind. All he had were actions, and her actions communicated danger. This is what people mean when they say self-defense isn't clean. It's not cinematic. It's not morally tidy. It doesn't come with certainty, but it does come with responsibility on both sides. Her panic does not make her evil, but it also does not make her actions harmless. And the officer's response does not have to be flawless to be justified. This is why I keep coming back to the same question over and over again. Strip everything else away. Not politics, not emotion, not ideology. Was the officer facing a reasonable possibility of serious bodily harm or death in that moment? If the answer is yes, and based on the facts, it is, then this is self-defense. It's not perfect. It's not something to celebrate. It's not something anyone should be happy about, but it's still self-defense. What happened here was a tragedy. A woman lost her life, and that matters. And do you really honestly think that cop is celebrating the fact that he had to shoot that woman? Come on, people, let's be people. But tragedy does not automatically mean injustice. Sometimes tragedy is what happens when fear, panic, and bad decisions collide in a matter of seconds. And pretending otherwise doesn't make us more compassionate. It just makes us dishonest about how violence, stress, and human beings actually work. That's the conversation we should be having. not the easy one, the honest one. One thing's for certain.
So,
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah. That's really good stuff. I mean, he hit it right on the nail.
Yeah, I really, when you're talking about, it doesn't even matter, intent, it's just, what's the level of threat here, right? Am I in danger?
Well, and this is the thing, and I've, like I said to you guys, I watched it from every possible angle. We saw the footage from the, or they said it was from the body cam. I mean, there's so many things that we've seen, and the problem is there's so much emotion involved in this, and yeah, the situation sucks. There's no doubt the situation sucks.
Right.
But like he said, strip everything away. Just strip everything away and just look at the facts. Could he have been killed? And yeah, he could have been.
Yeah. And that's really all that matters. And yeah, you're expecting, as I said, when people, the problem is like when you do when you do train, you it's weird because you're in this world where you can sit there and talk about it and break it down and analyze, like, well, we're thinking about, now's the time we can talk about it and really get to the nuances of it. And I think we really got it down because we're just looking at a physical act. When you're taking out the the emotional act, the circumstances and the messiness of it. When you're not even training with emotions. You can train with intensity, right? You can prepare yourself in a way, but for the most part, I'm like, you can't, and to sit there and when I listen to these people, year in and year out, just talk about, well, you'll go to jail for that. Well, you'll do this for that. Oh, yeah. I'm like, you've either never, experienced it or haven't really reflected on what you've experienced, because there is no, you'll go for jail for that. That's bullshit. I mean, you go for jail for anything, to be honest. I'm like, and this is why you have to defend your actions in court. And this is why in the setup, during the interview, we're putting ourselves in a position where it's like, you are going to make an overt act towards me. Right. I mean, I'm going to get at the position of advantage, set my distance when possible. If not, you're already in my space. So it's over. Right. I gotta escape or I gotta attack. Right. So, we're removing that question of it. Then after what we do, it's we go until the threat is stopped. There's excessive use of force. They're stopping the threat. And then there's, continually beating the threat to a pulp after it's unresponsive. It doesn't mean you got to let somebody get up, but it's like, it's just a reasonable amount of time, where, you're not pummeling somebody in the ground, then they're taking their lifeless body and like dragging it behind your car. I mean, that's, there comes a point, but everyone's looking at this and they look at all these situations from this, analytical view. That's why I love watching, hearing people talk about, a sporting event, something like that. I'm like, you have no idea, what it's like to go, to be in there and to feel what he's feeling right now. And that's the problem. And most people don't understand it. Clayton's, Clayton posted a very similar incident that happened to a cop buddy of mine several years back. For the sake of public opinion, he was crucified by the police chief and the mayor. Yeah. Cops are appropriately held to a so-called higher standard of behaving during stressful incidents, but even the best trained officers still human and therefore subject to, atomic nervous systems. Right. I mean, you're under stress, but that's why, you put yourself in a position where, look, if you're the rules are different for, law enforcement and civilian, when it comes to engagement. I mean, law enforcement has, they're conducting business for, if it's a law enforcement activity, then, they can use force to carry out that activity, period. right? So, yeah, I think, it's like this keeps always, every time this comes up too, it also, it puts the onus on people citizens who want to defend themselves, because now, like, oh, you should have done this or you should have done that. And you're like, in the moment I did what I felt was gonna, protect me and protect others. I don't know. I'm right. But yeah. Yeah, it was excellent.
Yeah, that was a great breakdown.
I don't know if I'm breaking down the breakdown.
Not yours. Yours wasn't great, but his was.
Yes, exactly. I'm just fucking awful. Just rambling. But, just apply what he's talking about in self-defense to your own personal self-defense, period.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
Sure.
So, yeah. Anyway. So, looks like we're coming to the end of this. Was a good podcast, fellas.
It was a great podcast.
Excellent. So, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Clayton, awesome to have you. Jim, thanks for posting. Tom, as always, appreciate, again, like and subscribe, people. Much appreciated. What do you guys got going on this week?
I got a lot of work.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, you know what? I've got a lot of nothing going on this week, so I'd like to keep it that way.
Nice. Well, hopefully we'll
I am teaching an emergency prep, or I'm doing an emergency prep analysis with some people in a couple of days.
Oh, cool.
Very nice.
That's happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
I always forget like these little things that I'm doing, but yeah.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. All right, fellas. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Until next time, as always.